What's up, everybody? Thanks for checking out this segment of the main show. Be sure to check out the full EXFIL podcast at youtube.com/xpmedia now.
On the heels of our kind of flea market overview last week, I want to talk about some specific things that, depending where you're at in your hideout or your reputations, I want to talk about these because I want to give people something to look forward to if you're newer in the game or if you're approaching these. I want you to know about them, and I will say this up front. At the time of the podcast, these are the numbers. They change all the time. They may work better tomorrow. They may not work. You could break down in a spreadsheet or however the profitability of any trade or any hideout craft in the same way that we're about to do. But we want to bring up a couple that are really consistent or have big profit margins and don't require a ton of end game stuff. But I just wanted to give that qualifier up front, as these are ones I think you should be looking at once you get to the points where you can. So the first one I want to look at is the magazine case craft from the lavatory. Okay? In this craft, there's a couple things about it, and we mentioned this one specifically on last week's episode because of the fuel canisters that you can use in your generator, and then you can also take the empty ones and use them in this craft. So to break this down, it takes 2 expeditionary fuel tanks, the blue fuel canisters. It takes 1 metal cutting scissor, takes 3 bolts, and 3 screw nuts. So I went and looked right before we recorded, and I'll say this, traditionally, this trade has always been profitable. If you just went and bought the materials on the flea market, went to your hideout, and then crafted it, you could flip it for money just immediately. But for the first time that I've checked, it actually isn't profitable right now, but it usually is. And part of the reason is the fuel tanks are going for 90,000 rubles right now, and you need 2 of them. Metal cutting scissors are going for 56,000 right now, and you need 1 of those. And it's normally about 40,000. Fuel tanks have been as low as 60,000 recently. And then you need 3 of each bolts and screws, and those are up to 16,000 and 15,000 respectively. And those can be as low as 10 or 11,000. So everything went up a little bit. And the reason we bring this one up is because Therapist will pay 318,000 rubles for a magazine case. Now, right now, if you just went and bought all this on the flea market, right now, as I'm talking, it'd be 329,000, so it's not profitable. And the reason we picked this one specifically is normally it's profitable, and it's profitable by selling it to Therapist, which removes the flea market cut. You're not going to lose anything from the fee. So anyway, I thought it was really interesting that I usually just make this all the time, not even thinking about it, and it's not profitable right now. So is this one that you actually do, Eric?
Yeah, so this is one that everybody can do. You can do this as soon as you start getting your hideout leveled. This is really kind of that first trade and create in your hideout where you start to make money. And so right now, the blue fuel cans are definitely getting to be too expensive on the flea market. And so the way that you can get around this right now is to make the blue fuel cans. You can do them the same thing in the lavatory. You need 8 crickets, which is the orange lighters, and you need 6 Zippos, which is the teal lighters. A lot of those can be found just scavving. Look in file cabinets. Mostly they're in file cabinets. They're, in multiple maps. And most people throw them away because, as we've talked about in the past about how you want to optimize each square for a certain amount of money, you want to make sure that you don't optimize your scav run at the expense of like a greater goal. And so I always think about crickets and Zippos, even though in and of themselves, for the 1-for-1 slot that they take up, they're not the most profitable thing. I still take them out with me because I know that I'm going to need them to craft fuel tanks, which I burn in my generator, and then I put them on down the assembly line and turn them into magazine cases. So this is a really great trade, and I think it's early on because it teaches you kind of the efficiency of scavving to create something, using the item that you create in your hideout, and then taking the used up item and turning it into something that you can flip for money.
Right. And it's fundamental in that regard. And the funny part is, the reason we talk about checking the prices and making sure you're doing your homework on it before you pull the trigger, I put these notes together a little over an hour ago, and I just went and checked. And the fuel tanks are down to 81,000, which takes 18,000 off the price, which makes it profitable right there. But metal cutting scissors from when I did this went down 5,000, bolts went down to 12,000, screw nuts went down to 13,000. So the difference in an hour on the flea market went from this being negative 11,900 in the red to pretty significantly in the green. And I'm not going to do the hard math here, but it's probably now 30 or 40,000 profit just in that swing of time. So it's always worth checking on this, but typically this is one you can do really without question. But tonight was the first time it wasn't profitable when I looked at it, but just in the time that I wrote these notes, it has now become profitable again.
Yeah, it's important because you can lose track of when you're buying multiple different pieces to make a trade or to make something in your hideout. It's easy to lose track of how much each one of those different things costs, right? So, that you talk about like 90,000 versus 81,000. That's an easy one to just know what it costs. But if you're looking at bolts and they cost 16,000 versus 14,000 or 12,000, you're not going to think about that as much, but it all adds up and all makes a difference. And so I think one of the big things to keep in mind when you're kind of getting to that next level of advanced economy where you really start to take advantage of the hideout system and the flea market system at this different kind of level, other than just scabbing for something and selling it all the time, keep in mind what you're buying, why you're buying it, and how it's going to fit into your plan for crafting, for sure.